Art takes many forms, yet it all starts with an idea or a concept from inside the artist's mind. Welcome to Inside the Artist's Mind. I'm your host, Trey Goodman. On each episode, we meet Valley artists and find out what they do and why they do it. On today's show, we find out what it takes to create a tattoo. But before that, we caught up with Dominic Zampano, a Scottsdale culinary artist. We met up with the sous chef at Elements Restaurant at the Sanctuary Resort on Camelback Mountain. So Dominic Zampano, thanks so much for joining us on Inside the Artist's Mind today.
My pleasure.
And thanks for letting us into your kitchen here.
Oh, absolutely.
At the Sanctuary Resort?
Yep, Sanctuary Resort on Camelback Mountain. The restaurant is Elements. And we just got voted #1 resort in the U.S.
#1 in the U.S.?
#1 in the U.S.
You got to feel pretty cool about that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It was a great honor.
Now, you are a sous chef?
Yes, I'm the sous chef here.
What does sous mean?
Sous is French for under. So basically, there's the executive chef, Beau McMillan, and I am the #2, like pretty much his right hand.
But I mean, how did you get into cooking?
Total accident.
Really?
Yeah, a friend of mine, her parents owned a restaurant, and I was running a print press at the time, and she was like, I think you make a good waiter. So I came in, and I was like, wow, and like it was a lot of energy, a lot of teamwork, a lot of positive attitude.
But you had to have some formal training, right?
Not initially. I spent about 5 years on the job before I decided to go to school, just to kind of like refine my skills.
And then you went to school?
Yeah, went to Scottsdale Culinary Institute. Did the associates program, then I graduated from there and took over chef de cuisine at another restaurant here in town.
You're French trained?
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Basically, there's all different kinds of like styles, just like Chinese, Italian. There's different techniques to certain cuisines, and I worked for a French chef, so just the way that they make like sauces and vinaigrettes and things like that. So
how cool is it to be a chef?
Oh, it's great. It's like being a rock star without the pay,
I thought chefs did pretty well, though.
Not as good as rock stars, We work hard and we play hard, so.
What's a typical day like for a chef?
I usually get into work, go through, make sure everybody showed up for work, go through, make sure my deliveries came in, check my product out if there's anything wrong, I need to get it situated.
So as a chef, you're in charge of you're ordering the food?
Yep.
Is that a daily thing? How does that work?
Yeah, daily. I work with 5 different fish purveyors, 3 different produce companies, and I just kind of like call around and outsource and see like what's the best product they have available. And
so as one of the top chefs here, then you get to make choices on the menu?
Yeah, it's nice working with my executive chef. Like what I'll do is I'll create a dish and I'll bring it to him, and then we'll sit and we'll fire off ideas back and forth to create the best possible dish.
Now, how do you create a dish?
Like I'll just see something and be inspired. Like I'll see like a bulb of fennel, or like.
What is that?
It's fennel's like kind of has like a licorice taste to it. It's goofy looking. It's got long strands. But I'll see something like that, and I'll start to think about like what it tastes like and what it would go with, and just kind of roll from there.
How do you know when a dish is good, and how do you know when the dish is, pushing yourself and it's better? Do you test it on people? How does that work?
Yeah, we'll create a dish, and then, like I said, I'll bring it to my boss, and like we'll taste it.
I was watching you work in the kitchen earlier, and it just seems like you're not following recipes. I don't see any books out.
No.
You're just doing stuff, right?
Yeah, it's all in my head. It's.
How do you know when you've put enough in? I mean,
it's kind of hard to describe. It's like, I don't try and like overdo like a dish. Like I like to keep like 5 or 6 components to it, and I just try and marry those flavors. And once I have
so you're always tasting
flavors, always tasting.
Well, when we were watching you in the kitchen, I mean, to an innocent bystander, it looks kind of chaotic.
It's a beautiful, organized mess. Is basically what it is. Everybody has their role in the kitchen, and it's kind of a scramble because we are busy.
It's like an assembly line to some degree, but
it's almost kind of like a symphony in a way. It's like, you have all these people and all these like hands like moving and this and that, but it's the communication. It's like, behind you, or, like plates down, or, veg is down, or veg is ready, or, so it's just, like guys get into a rhythm where like they're not even like really looking at each other, they're just going through the motions. Yeah. And it's actually very cool to watch them work, because you're like, just the way that they move together, like as a team.
So how important is timing then to everything?
Oh, timing is everything.
Is it?
Yeah. You got to know when your stuff is done in the dining room. Like you wouldn't want to have like your appetizer and then wait 40 minutes and then get your entree.
What's the distance supposed to be on that?
I would say about 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes.
I always wondered, because sometimes I go in a restaurant and it seems like, hello.
Yeah. Yeah, they forgot about you.
And then
kinda
other
thing,
times
or-
it seems like, wow, it came out really, kind of quick, which is
Yeah.
better than waiting, I guess. But
Yeah, we try and shoot for like 10 to 12 minutes. That's enough time to, let your appetizer kind of like digest and you kind of like relax a little bit before your next course comes out. So
you said you change the menu every once in a while.
we change the menu every month.
So
Actually.
every month you sit down and figure out what your new dishes are going to be
Yep.
and how much food you got to work.
Yeah, but it's easy because it's exciting. You're like, oh, like you're actually, you get geared up to like put something new on the menu that everybody's gonna love, kind of thing. So I don't find it that difficult at all.
How many people on a typical night will you serve?
About 180, 200.
You're preparing 200 dishes then probably?
Yep.
Something like that?
Yep. Well, theoretically, probably a lot more than that, considering if everybody has an appetizer and entree. So we're probably pushing out about 400 or 500 plates a night.
And in how many hours of time is that happening?
5 hours, 4 hours.
That's a lot happening, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do you get pretty excited about your new dishes?
Yeah, I do.
And then like the first night or so, you're like, I'm
Yeah.
hoping, one, I hope they order it, right?
Yeah.
And two,
Yeah.
see what the response is.
That's exactly what, like, I'll pace around the kitchen and I'll be like, come on, someone really needs to order the lobster pot pie kind of thing,
Do you have the servers at least try to say, hey, the
they do.
chef is saying this is...
Yeah, they do a good job with that, and then like I'll wait for the first couple to go out, and then I'll go find a waiter and be like, what'd they think? And then if I don't hear, like on a daily basis, if I don't hear like from the servers, whatever, that like a guest had the best meal ever, or a lot of compliments on this or that, like I'm wondering what's wrong.
We've all seen the show Hell's Kitchen.
Yep.
Now, I came over here and watched you work. I didn't see any of that going on. So what's up? What's the real story?
I've been known on occasion to maybe raise my voice, maybe get a little agitated, if you will. But basically what it is like, we don't yell and scream and, because we're like that. It's just, you have such a passion for it and such a passion for perfection. It's like, you want that every time. Like,
Well, Hell's Kitchen, it seemed like that's all they were doing was yelling and throwing
yeah,
things.
but I think it's more TV than anything else,
What's the coolest thing about your job? Is it creating the dishes, or is
Yeah.
it the way that people react, or?
Yeah, it's basically it's creating a dish. It's like something that you come up with that goes out to the table, and then when you have a diner put it in their mouth, and they're like, that's the best thing I've ever tasted in my life. Like that's my paycheck. That's what keeps me motivated. That's what keeps the drive going.
How do you know what ingredients to use? How do you know when something might need just a little more fill in the blank? How do you know that?
I was blessed to have a pretty refined palate, and the fact that like I can taste something and be like, needs a little bit more acidity. But basic cooking is just it's all technique. So you want to shoot for acids, sweetness, salt, all the other fun stuff, and you can taste it and be like, ooh, that's really rich. It needs an acid to
So
cut
is it sort of a science and an art, or?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
What's your favorite dish to prepare?
Probably anything seafood. I spent.
Oh, I love seafood, man.
I spent 6 months in Maine on an island.
So lots of lobster up there.
Yeah, lots of lobster, scallops. I just love fresh fish. There's so much you can do with it. It's so versatile.
What's your best dish? Currently your best dish?
Currently here, probably our short ribs.
Is that a dish you create or you work on? You do?
Yeah, it was kind of a collaboration. Like our whole menu is like a collaboration of myself and my executive chef. So our short ribs and probably our orange nairagi. It's a marlin from Hawaii that we do it really nice.
So what makes a successful night for you versus some other night where you're like, it didn't go so well or something?
Successful night is first of all a well-sat dining room where like
What does that mean exactly?
Well, everybody shows up for their reservation on time. Everybody sits down on
So
time.
you're into them being on time because you're into timing. And
Right.
that's important to you.
Right. If everybody shows up for their reservations, like if half the reservations show up late and the other half show up early, and we see everybody at once, all the food gets ordered at once, and it becomes more like chaotic, and there's a lot more pressure then.
You ever throw a pot or a pan at one of the wait staff?
Wait staff? No.
I like the way you answered that.
Maybe not so much a wait staff.
Yeah. You ever wanted to throw a pot or a pan at the wait staff?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's.
Yeah.
Well, what advice would you have for any upcoming or aspiring chef or somebody that wants to become an executive chef? What's the typical path they need to take, or is there a typical path?
Yeah, it's basically, I know for me, like I started off like washing dishes and moved into a prep cook position, and then moved into a pantry position, which is like cold salads and things like that, and then a line position, and then there was a lead line cook, a tournade, sous chef, and then executive chef.
And that's, of course, at a bigger place that has all those,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Hey, I noticed you're very meticulous on when the plate, before it goes out, very meticulous on making sure the presentation
Yep.
is all what you want it to be.
Yeah.
I mean, how important is that?
It's huge. I think that, out of like all the arts, I think food is probably like the most sensual. It's like, it has to look good, it has to smell good, it has to taste good.
I mean, I was watching you though. It's almost like you're finishing a painting or something.
Yeah, it is. It's a true art form. It's like, and it's an expression of self.
Well, how do you go about introducing a new dish? And I know you said you talk with the executive chef and you guys kind of, but I mean, how many new dishes can you come up with?
It's endless.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's like last month we made gazpacho, which is a classic like Spanish chilled tomato soup.
Right.
I put a even spin on that, and I made it clear, so it was crystal clear, and it still tasted like tomatoes. And then we made that into a jelly.
You've got some more in your mind right now for next month?
Absolutely.
So what are the different ways you can address your creativity? You can expand your creativity as a chef. I mean, creating dishes is one way, but
Just from like the actual product itself, like different kinds of like organic vegetables or baby vegetables, or certain times of year, like certain fish run, like wild salmons, or things like that only run certain times a year. So, with the seasons changing and like the different months, like you get that your different products are available.
so do you look forward to stuff like that? Like,
do.
oh, this time of year is coming up, I can do something.
Yeah. It's like when soft shell crab season. It's only like
So it's like a holiday for you. Or
Yeah,
something. It's
it
like
is.
Christmas, right?
Yeah, it is. Basically it is. It's like, you only get to work with this product like once a year, so like when it's coming up, like you're like, oh, you're so excited to work with it and do the best thing that you possibly can with it.
So we ask this question of everybody on the show. The name of our show, of course, Inside the Artist's Mind. What is inside your mind?
Pretty much thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think maybe tacos. Tacos are good.
Yeah. Do you eat your own cooking, or do you have another place you like to, I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few little restaurants I'd like to go to. For the most part, like I'm pretty simple. Like I would much rather have like, just a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or some mac and cheese. Like I
Peanut
grew
butter
up-
and jelly?
Yeah,
Do you guys have that on the menu here?
we do. Yeah, we
Actually,
do.
You do?
Yeah, we actually cut the crust off too.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's nice. Cut a little triangles.
Wow, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to coming in and trying some of your
Absolutely. Anytime you want to come in, I'll make you a rezo.
food. Great. Well, Dominic, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you down the road in an executive position somewhere.
Hopefully.
All right, man. Take care.
You too.
Dominic certainly knows his craft. There really is a lot involved in the creation of fine food. When we come back, we're going to meet a very cool tattoo artist from Scottsdale. But first, a quick thanks to our sponsors.
The magazine for your community. Community Brief Magazine is a proud sponsor of this segment of Inside the Artist's Mind. This show is brought to you by Core Advertising. Let Core Advertising bring your vision to life. And by SCF Arizona, the state's largest provider of workers' compensation insurance. Giving back to the community. SCF Arizona, at work for you.
Welcome back to IAM. We've all seen tattoos, but have you ever wondered how they're created? Let's go check it out.
How are you doing? Great. It's good to see you.
We caught up with Eric Weir, nicknamed Dub, at Divinity Tattoo in Scottsdale. So Eric Weir, welcome to Inside the Artist's Mind. We are so happy to have you on the show today.
Oh, thank you.
And thanks for allowing us to come into your tattoo studio.
Absolutely, thank you.
So you are a tattoo artist.
Yes.
How did you get involved in that?
Well, unlike most tattoo artists, I was really never into the art as a kid. But then later on, about after I graduated high school in the mid-'90s, I started seeing the art of tattoo really kind of blossom.
So you
and go.
think it's changed a lot?
I think so. I
mean,
think
tattoos have been around for what?
thousands
of years. Right?
Yeah. But there were guys coming out of fine art schools that really saw the potential of tattoos as not just something a rebellious little mark,
Right.
but something that is really is an art form.
And that got you interested?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Have you always been artistic?
Yeah, ever since I could pick up a pencil, really, I was always surrounded by art. My father is an artist, and so yeah.
So what are your main artistic influences, if you have some?
Well, I would say my first ever was my dad. I was always, he introduced me to all kinds of different art. I'd say probably one of my first, other than him, was a British artist named Brian Froud, who had a lot of fantasy work.
I notice in your work, and we're
sketches.
seeing your work today, it looks very fantasy style,
Yeah,
or
I'm still-
sci-fi,
Yes.
or comic book-esque, or...
Still influenced by all of those, the Brian Froud, Arthur Rackham, Alan Lee,
So you got started about 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
but how did you, I mean, what happened? You decided you wanted to do tattoo?
Yeah, I got interested, like I said, in mid to late '90s, and about 4.5 years ago, Paulo and Dan, who are the owners of Divinity Tattoo,
Where we are today?
Where we are today, yeah, they were opening the place, and I kind of knew Paulo, and he knew I was interested in tattooing, and he knew I was an artist, and he needed an apprentice, and offered me the job. And
Now, is that how it usually goes? You become an apprentice, or is there a tattoo school you go to, or what?
Not really. It's really an apprentice sort of a deal. That way you can really learn from your mentor. You can sit down with him, watch him work.
Wow.
He can watch you work, give you pointers.
How long does it take from when you're watching them to where they actually let you, what do you call it, inking somebody? Or?
Yeah, before you start tattooing the public.
Yeah.
It varies. I mean, I was about 6 months into my apprenticeship before Paulo said, okay, you can start doing small pieces on customers.
So that's 6 months of coming, like maybe what, 2 or 3 times? I mean,
I'd say 5 days a week, half days, because I was still working.
and watching someone.
And
do it.
watching, also tattooing oranges, grapefruits.
Really?
And then we would get people who were willing to get tattoos from an apprentice. They were free, and we did say, it's a possibility. We're going to have to fix this up later on.
Right.
So yeah, that's pretty much how it works.
Now, what are the tools that you use? Are there special tools, more than one, or is it just like a gun? I mean,
Well, it's a tattoo machine. That's what it's officially called. And there's various kinds. There's shaders. There's liners.
Okay.
There's also different kinds of needle groupings.
Oh, okay.
Very tight. Say 3 needles for tight lines.
and you've learned all this during your apprenticeship? Right?
Yeah, during the apprenticeship, pretty much just going through and learning the basics. Yeah.
What would you say is the most important thing about being a tattooer? What's the thing you got to learn, like the number one thing?
Well, I'd say the number one thing that I had to overcome was people watching me as I'm doing my art. I really wasn't, very comfortable with that at first. And after a while, I think you have to really learn to accept that. I mean, you're going to be watched as you're doing it.
What do you mean by who's watching? The person you're...
The person that you're tattooing, and also the people that he or she may be with at the time.
Were you a little nervous the first time you...
Oh, God, yes.
What was the tattoo?
Oh, the first tattoo I ever did was my dad was nice enough to sacrifice himself as I did a piece. It was just line art. It was like a deer on his thigh, and it was just horrible. But it was my first, and I was incredibly nervous. So I think I've gotten a little better since then.
Well, it's obvious you've gotten a lot better from seeing your work here.
Yeah.
And it seems
Well,
like you're very popular here in town. You learned as an apprentice, and now you're a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
But it's not like you have you're a lieutenant and you're going to become a colonel or something, right? I mean,
Right, yeah.
You stay up in the business by what? Just
Just reading, periodicals, going to conventions, learning
Okay.
from other artists, networking, and just really working at your craft every day. Just practice, practice, practice.
so. Let's say I want a tattoo. What's the process? I walk in the door and
Sure, you come in, and usually we set up a consultation time in which you would talk to the artist about what you want to get done.
so I come in with an idea, or maybe you have something I can. I mean, you have a book or something, right? I flip through or something.
Oh, sure, yeah. Each artist has a portfolio, and it features their work. And depending on what kind of art that the client wants, they'll gravitate toward a certain artist.
And then the process. So we pick something out.
Right, pick something out, or we'll draw it out for you.
Okay.
And generally, we will make either a stencil, which we put on the skin so you can see the outline of it. If you want to move it up or down, left or right on your body, that's fine. Also, we do a lot of freehanding, which is basically taking a pen or a marker and drawing it on your body. Usually those
Just
are done for
freehand?
Yeah, usually those are done for larger pieces that need to, fit around the contours of your body.
So what would you say would make a good, like I walk in here and there's however many, 6, 7 tattoo artists. How do I know who's the best one?
Really, like I said, look through our portfolios, and it's kind of up to the client's personal taste. Whereas one artist may do say graffiti style work, and another artist does, like myself, maybe do more fantasy.
So you kind of specialize in shops. They kind of have people specializing.
Right, yeah. I mean, everybody has their own style and their own preference of material.
Do you think a tattoo changes a person somewhat?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
How so?
For good or bad, I would say mostly for good. For instance, myself, I do get looks from people. Even little old ladies at the supermarket grab my arm and start twisting it and say, "Oh my goodness, let me see this," which I think is nice. But it kind of depends on the person. If you're not into that, well, you have to be ready, especially if your tattoo is very visible.
Do you think it's more accepted nowadays?
I do.
Because you think it's more of an art form?
Yes,
is that the deal?
I absolutely do. I think that it's gone from being, a very rebellious sort of underground thing to where it's not as much anymore, and it's more of people just wanting to get beautiful art on their bodies.
When deciding on a tattoo, what would you say people should consider? What are some of the guidelines, some of the tips? What
Well, make sure that you work in an industry or your job allows, if you do get a visible tattoo, if they allow that. If they don't, make sure that it's somewhere where it's not readily visible to the public. Also, just make sure that it's an image that you are positive that you will love for the rest of your living
So
days.
about how long does it take to create an average size tattoo? Say like a tattoo that's like maybe, like yay big, something like that.
Not too long. I mean, it does depend on detail, color,
Right.
But anywhere from a half an hour to maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Wow, that's still pretty quick, isn't it? I mean,
It is not too long.
for something that's permanent, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How many tattoos would you say you do in like a year's time, or?
Oh, a year's time. Boy. Well, I do maybe an average of 2 or 3 a day.
2 or 3 a day?
Yeah, and I've since started trying to do maybe 1 or 2 a day, but larger pieces, maybe for 5 hours at a time. So multiply that by 4 days a week, 52 weeks.
That's a lot of
year.
tattoos.
Yeah, it's quite a.
So do you find yourself still being extremely creative? I mean, there's the sky's the limit on tattooing for now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and the longer I've been tattooing, the more it's opened up creatively for me. And also being surrounded by the artists I work with, wow, they're a very inspirational, creative team.
Now, not to get off tattooing too much, but you do some other art as
Right.
well. And what is that?
I try to get into everything. Mostly I do charcoal work, but I've
And
also...
we're going to look at we're looking at some of your work today.
Sure. Charcoal work is really nice. Charcoal as a medium is very forgiving. If you screw something up, you can easily erase it, draw back over it. It just really it's my favorite personal medium. And I also like doing sculpture, acrylic painting, watercolor.
So you're sort of like your father. I mean, you're
Yeah.
just doing all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if I get bored with one medium, there's always something else to go into.
Well, what advice would you have for somebody who wants to become a tattoo artist?
I'd say if you want to become a tattoo artist, make up a portfolio. It really helps if you are an artist to begin with. I'd say, just take your portfolio around to different studios who have a good reputation. There are some that don't.
Now, you're saying a portfolio, though.
Yes.
I am not a tattoo artist yet, but I want to become one. So it would just be my artwork? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it would just be your artwork.
Okay.
That's what I did. I took in
Okay.
portraits, paintings, pictures of, all kinds of different mediums.
And what's the most important thing I would need to have in order to be a successful tattoo artist? What skill, what do I need to have?
Well, I think the most important thing is really patience and the passion to do it, and just the willingness to practice, and knowing that you're gonna screw up, you're gonna, it's very nerve-wracking. You don't think sitting there and drawing is gonna be so stressful, but it really is.
Do you look at some of your work you've done 2-3 years ago and look at it now and go, wow, I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
wow.
Yeah.
So in the next 3 or 4 years, you're
Oh, I
gonna-
hope so.
Yeah?
Oh,
Just
yeah.
gonna keep going?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
What would you do if you couldn't be artistic? What if you couldn't have any of this? What would you do?
Filmmaking, I love. I have been in some films. I was directed a short film. I'd like to get into maybe special effects, conceptual work for film, and maybe even voiceover. I've thought of for radio or television. So there's always something to do.
Well, what is next for Eric Weir?
Oh boy. well, I have a 5-hour tattoo tomorrow, and I have a whole lot of things on the plate. I'm just, writing, drawing, tattooing, painting. It's always something.
What's the biggest piece you've done so far?
I think I'd say back pieces, full back pieces. Those are, take up a lot of time. A lot of detail can go into those because it is such a large. That's probably it's the largest canvas really on the body that you can see full on.
Well, you know the name of our show,
Yes.
Inside the Artist's Mind. So we always ask this question: what is inside your mind?
Boy, oh, so many things.
Yeah.
I just the future is always inside my mind. What I'm gonna do next, be it the next tattoo or the next drawing, or picking my son up from school, or all that normal stuff.
So you got a lot of stuff going on?
Oh yeah, because I get bored real easy, so I need a lot of stuff going on.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to be on the show, and
Sure.
hopefully down the road maybe we can catch up with you again and see what you are up to next.
Right on. Yeah. No, thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Community Brief Magazine is a proud sponsor of this segment of Inside the Artist's Mind. This show is brought to you by Core Advertising. Let Core Advertising bring your vision to life. And by SCF Arizona, the state's largest provider of workers' compensation insurance. Giving back to the community. SCF Arizona, at work for you.
I learned a lot from Dominic and Eric today. If you have any comments about the show, we would love to hear from you, and please direct them to our website at InsideTheArtist'sMind.com. Until next time. If you'd like to see the uncut interviews of today's guests, or view the exclusive behind-the-scenes photos, then take a look at the DVDs available on our website.